Welcome to the Bricks and Banks podcast, where real estate meets real wealth. Whether you're building from the ground up or stacking your paper to the ceiling, Steph breaks down property power plays and money moves you can act on. From first-time buyers to seasoned investors, this podcast is your blueprint for financial freedom through real estate, business, and investment. Subscribe now. It's time to build your future. This is Bricks and Banks with Steph.
We are live. Hey everyone, welcome to another amazing episode of the Bricks and Banks podcast. I am your host, Stephanie. Today's episode is not just about real estate or finance. It's about what happens when life takes everything from you and how one man used that devastation to build a mission that now helps others onto what matters most. Michael had it all: a thriving real estate career, a business with his father, stable home, stable income. But in the blink of a few hard years, he lost nearly everything: his marriage, his house, his credit, his pride. But that's not where the story ends. That's where his mission began. In this episode, we dive deep into his personal life and the remarkable rise, truth about foreclosure that no one tells you, and the steps anyone can take to reclaim their future. To join me in welcoming Michael Russell to the pod, he's the president and principal broker of Century 21 Signature Properties. Hey, Michael, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're all the way in Boston. How's the weather over there?
It's raining today. Raining.
Oh, really?
You know? Yeah, it's
Why
going
is
to
it
rain
raining?
all week.
The sun is burning us here. This is London.
Yeah.
So can you share a bit of your story? Like, your story is remarkable. When I saw what you've done and how you've been through, and even the work and the project you're doing with Hope for Hardship Foundation, I'm just intrigued. Can you just share your story? How did you start? Where did you school? What was your upbringing like?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the real estate business my whole life, since I was 19. It's kind of the first real job I ever had. And in the beginning, I got into the business when the market began to escalate significantly over a 8-year period where property values went up, sales volume went up, and we're making a lot of money. And it was a lot of naivete, a lot of selfishness, as I mistook cash flow for wealth, and I never really thought that the cash flow would slow down or stop. And so I over leveraged myself, in a million different ways. And if a dollar came in, I spent $2. And that's just kind of the way I lived. It's, money was always kind of like my drug of choice, right? I wanted more of it, more of it, more of it. And, I lived a pretty excessive lifestyle. I did a lot of things at a pretty young age,
I'd say that was your YOLO era.
Yeah.
Era.
Yeah, it was, and then of course, 2008, 2009 came, and I certainly didn't have the foresight to see that there was a problem coming back then. I was pretty delusional about the whole thing. And it, massive economic problem combined with my selfish way of living for an extended period of time, they kind of converged and created a massive problem for me. And I ended up being foreclosed on with a few different properties. I ended up filing personal bankruptcy and corporate bankruptcy, getting divorced. I kind of ran the gamut of struggle, and hardships. Most of mine self-created. I didn't make any plans for the future. I lived every day like it was going to be my last day, really. I didn't really think much about the future. And I was, during that time from 2008 to 2013, when I was facing my own crazy financial hardships and creating a whole bunch of collateral damage and struggle amongst my family, I was working for banks. I was working for government subsidized entities like Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. And I was hired to sell their foreclosed assets. And a lot of the work that I did back then was I would have to go to properties and meet with the homeowner or the previous homeowner who had just been foreclosed on, and the bank bought back the property.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they would do something called a lockout, where I would show up there with a moving truck, 2 movers, and a constable or a sheriff. And they would literally just knock on the door and say to these poor people, I probably did this 250 times.
What?
And they'd say, you have an hour, anything you want that can fit in the truck, we'll store for you for a month, but we're changing the locks when we're done here. you're out. And I
Wow.
saw that effect that it had on people firsthand.
Mm,
And that kind of stuff always resonated with me. I always had an easier time relating to people who were facing hardship than I
mm,
did to people who weren't, you know?
yeah.
And so all that stuff, the combined personal piece of it and seeing it on a business level as well
Yeah.
over it took me probably 10 years to fix all that financial damage, and
Wow.
probably even a little longer to fix the emotional damage within the family and things like that.
Mm,
And once I had done that, I decided that I wanted to take all this useless real estate banking knowledge that I had from 30 years and do
mm,
something better with it, and to give back and to pay it forward. And so I formed this nonprofit to help people who are facing financial crisis and help them find a softer landing spot than I did. Because my landing was not soft. My landing was very abrupt and rough.
mm,
And all these years later, through the benefit of hindsight, I kind of have a pretty good idea of how to make the right decisions when facing financial hardship that'll ensure a softer landing than if you continue to make the wrong one. And so that's kind of where this nonprofit was born is my own personal experience, what I've been through in my business career, and
yeah.
it's all pretty simple to me to try to help people avoid these massive pitfalls of bankruptcy and foreclosure. Those are two of the worst things that can happen to you. Public events on your credit report. And I was a slow learner. I didn't really value credit until it was too late, right?
So
But now,
you're running your full business all cash in at the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
that's a lot of cash.
Yeah, it was, it, and I guess over the years, 30 years doing anything, it gets kind of
Uh,
monotonous, right? And so I kind of wanted something more for my life and my career than, listing and selling properties and real estate and that kind of thing. And so I just
yeah.
saw kind of an opportunity. There's quite a bit of struggle going on always. People are facing divorce. People
Yes.
lose family members that leave property behind and the properties have problems,
Mm,
or people are at threat of foreclosure. And so those are three categories of people that I try to help, and I do that stuff for free. I'm not looking for anything.
wow.
It kind of, if I'm being honest, it doing this work helps me continue to heal from my own struggles.
I mean, it's amazing how you're lending a helping hand and you're not just telling your story. Oh, this is what I went through. You're actually helping others heal and also healing yourself. That's the greatest form of humanity, if I say so myself. I would say you should hide because the people you foreclosed previously can come for you. So how does it work? Do you go to these people that need hardship or they come to your foundation? How does it work?
A little of both, a
Okay.
little of both. I reach out to everyone. When you're
Mm,
facing when you're facing foreclosure,
yeah.
excuse me, it becomes public record.
Yes.
So it's relatively simple to identify the folks who are being threatened with foreclosure from the bank.
Okay.
And so I pursue everyone that is facing struggle.
Mm,
And also, over time, people have come to know that we're a place that you can get some help. And so we have some people that come to us and we pursue everybody who's facing these kinds of struggles.
okay, that makes sense. Just to take you back, you said you started real estate at 19. So was that what you were doing in school? Did you study it in school, or how did you stumble across it? Because that's such a
It
very
was
young age to get into the game.
it was the path of least resistance. I was looking to do the least amount of work for the most amount of money. And
Smart, smooth.
my father was a corporate employee for Century 21. And
Okay.
he got laid off and he ended up buying a Century 21 franchise when I was 18 or something like that. And I
Wow.
immediately went and started working there
Hmm.
as, an administrative assistant. I was answering phones and I just kind of started. I kind of did every job there is to do in a real estate firm over the course of my career.
Okay. So looking back now, would you say, was there ever a moment where you realized that your world was starting to unravel, like personally and financially? Like, what are some of the warning signs you may have ignored at the time in your YOLO
Oh, I
era?
was I was great. Yeah, no, I was really good at burying my head in the sand.
Hmm.
I always knew that there was a problem coming, but I ignored it, and that was part of my problem. I exacerbated my problems. I made them significantly worse
Hmm.
by doing what felt like the easiest thing at the time, and that was ignoring it. And what I knew is, look, when you're facing financial struggle, even if it's if you don't have any money, $10,000 might as well be 10 million. And so if you're behind $10,000 on bills,
It's
it's
true.
insurmountable, right? And
Mhm.
I knew at the time, I believed that I couldn't solve this problem because I didn't have this money to solve it.
Yeah.
So I allowed 2 years worth of unopened mail to sit on my dining room table. I
Wow.
knew there was a problem. I was just ignoring it. And that is not uncommon. Most of the people I meet are in some phase of that denial process where
Yes.
they are ignoring the problem. And what we fail to recognize, or what I certainly did, and what a lot of people do, is that the solutions to your problem were in that mail 20 months
Hmm.
ago, when the bank always wants to help the consumer that's in the property. Banks don't want to foreclose. Banks do not want to own real estate. It's the last thing in the world they want to do. But they will if you don't do anything. They will eventually foreclose. And that's precisely what I did and what so many people do, because it's hard to understand, that the very entity that's threatening you, the very entity that's coming after your property and sending you all this hate mail or whatever, they're the ones that will work with you. And the vast
Hmm. That's
the
true.
time, that's how we help people, is we help them apply for assistance, hardship assistance from their lender in order to remedy the problem. Lenders want to keep the original homeowner in the property, and they want to keep the terms of that note intact, and they are willing to assist you to make sure that happens. But time is the enemy. The longer you allow things to go without addressing them, without being proactive, without having effective dialogue with the lender, the more
Hmm.
likely you are to have less and less options. The more time that goes by, the less options you have. If you start early, when you realize there's a problem, and like, it's not hard to realize there's a problem, right? Like, everyone knows their mortgage
Yeah.
payment's due on the first of the month. And when you don't make a payment, a problem has begun. When you don't make two payments, a problem has begun, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And so the struggle compounds the longer it goes on.
Sure. Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And the proverbial is teaching time saves nine holds true in this case.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
the
I
human condition. It's what we do. When we are facing a
true.
problem that we don't understand how to fix, we
Yeah,
often avoid that problem.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just so how did you cope during this period? Did you ever go to therapy trying to heal and
Oh
all that?
no, I drank
Okay.
too much. That's how I coped. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I coped. I coped with any substance that took me out of my mind. That's how I coped, which was tremendously ineffective.
Yeah, exactly, because it's still going to the problem is still gonna be sticking there anyways.
By the
By the
time you
time you
go
have a clear head.
Yes, by the time you go back to your problems, they're significantly larger than they were in the first place. And so, yeah, that's how I coped through all of that in the beginning, is I numbed myself,
Hmm.
which made it so much easier to avoid the problem.
Yeah, it's easy to numb, and I think I've also fallen in that category sometimes. I just don't want to deal with things. I just numb out and like pray that or hope that it's going to disappear by the time reality sets in, but it never does. So
Yeah, hope doesn't solve a lot of problems.
it doesn't.
It
So
doesn't.
you've spoken openly about your divorce several times. Spoken about foreclosure and bankruptcy hitting all at once. How did that period reshape your identity, not just as a businessman, but as a father, as a human being, as someone that is interested in humanity? How did it shape all that happening at the same time? How did it shape you to who you are today?
Well, it so look, I'm a firm believer that I wouldn't be who I am today if not for what I've been through. I know that, right? I would
Mm,
not. I
yeah.
spent decades of my life being tremendously selfish and self-serving, and I always led with the intent of making money. That's what I wanted. I wanted money, I wanted lots of it, and I always needed more of it because I spent all the money I found. I never won with that mindset. I never got ahead in life I never felt particularly good about what I was doing. And it wasn't until I lost everything and rebuilt my life and changed who I was as a person. And look, changing who I was as a person had a lot to do, really all to do with getting sober, right?
Mm,
So my time spent burying my head in the sand and being selfish and being all those things, you substances of every kind exacerbated that, made it significantly worse.
mm,
Wasn't until I turned my life around by deciding not to cope with those kinds of things anymore. And after an extended period of time in being in that different mindset, and I became a different person, and I began to care more about the people next to me than I did about my own selfish intent. And that's really what started this, right? I would have never started this nonprofit if I didn't turn my life around. There's no question about that. That's the reason I started it and the reason I keep doing it. And part of my paying it forward in life, like that's kind of the fair bargain that I made when I kind of figured this out and other people helped me figure out how to live sober. Um,
yes.
is the fair bargain was pretty simple.
Mm,
Give back what you've learned freely to the next man or woman.
yeah, true.
And so that's what I do. I try to help people get through their own struggles in life. There is a large segment of the population who are facing these problems, who are coping with it in the same ways that I did. There's a lot of substance abuse and alcoholism related to financial hardship. I don't know a whole lot of people who are alcoholics or drug addicts or whatever the case may be who don't have financial problems. I don't really know
Yes,
many of them. And, it kind of they
definitely.
go hand in hand, right? It certainly did with me, and so trying to help people, push through that, and so that's what started it. My own life turnarounds is what pushed me to starting this. What keeps me doing it is that reward system, right? When I get to play just a small role in helping
Mm,
someone else turn their life around, it's tremendously gratifying to me, and being able to help someone save their home
yes.
and stay in their property
Mm.
is a tremendously rewarding experience. It really is.
Yeah, like when you shared, it just reminded me of that saying that hard times create strong men create good times create weak men. So you are the product of the hard times. You basically become a strong man, and
Sure.
you're using the strengths you've developed over time to help people and weak people that are in similar situation. So
Yeah. There's
it's
no
amazing
question
what
about
you're
it.
doing.
I
You're like
appreciate it. Thank
a
you.
real life Superman.
Maybe. I don't know.
You
That's
just don't have the cape.
yeah. That's we try, we try to help everyone. I
Mm.
spend the vast majority of my time trying to help people get out of there.
Yeah, so let's talk about a bit more about when you were at rock bottom. What was that shift in you that made you to say, okay, no, I need to stop hiding my head in the sand. I need to stop feeling pity for myself. I need to get back up. What was that spark that shifted everything for you?
It was this went on for a long time, it went on
Mm.
for 20 years, right? Is the
Wow.
way that I was living went on for 20 years.
Mm.
And if I'm being honest, it wasn't a lot of people that go through this kind of stuff, they get what they call anyway, a gift of desperation, right? Like desperation was a gift to a lot of people who turned their life around because they had no other place to turn. They were
Yeah.
desperate. And I never really got to that place in my life. I always figured out a way to get by, often at the expense of other people. And so I wasn't really, I never hit a desperation moment. Instead, for me, it was I got really sick and tired of being sick and tired. It just got to be so monotonous. Nothing ever changed. And I was just sick of it. And I had a belief in myself. I always did that I was better than this. I was better than these things that I was doing in the way that I was living. I believed that I had more potential than that. I believed that. And I eventually just got sick and tired of living that same way. And I just decided that I was going to do something about
Nice. So when you get sick and tired of getting sick and tired, you just have to do something.
it.
So
Yeah,
let's talk about foreclosure. Let's talk about foreclosure, not just as a legal term, but as a lived experience. You also shared that you were in situations where you were in charge of helping people foreclose their properties. as a job. So for the average homeowner facing it, what does that process really entail? What does it feel like? How is it often misunderstood? What's that thing that people misunderstand about it?
Sure. Well, listen, banks are going to follow. I've yet to meet someone who reads every page of their mortgage. Nobody does that. I don't even think the attorneys that draft this stuff read it.
Maybe you're the Superman.
Yeah. Right. Like maybe, but the banks read it
Mm,
and the banks follow it to a T and they know how to follow it. Banks have rights just like consumers have rights. And when you encumber a property with a mortgage, the bank has a set of rights and they are largely based on time frames. The bank
mm,
has 90 days to give the consumer a right to cure once they miss payments. Once that right to cure period ends, it's fair game for the bank. They can begin foreclosure proceedings, hire a foreclosure attorney. Here in the States, there's something called the Soldier and Sailors Act, and it's if you're in the active military, the bank can't foreclose. And so they're required to put a notice out there to the consumer, giving them an opportunity to come forth in court within 45 days after that 90-day period of right to cure has passed. They get another 45-day period where they give the consumer the right to come to court and prove they're in active military, and then they'll stop. So that
mm,
90 plus the 45's 135 days, 4.5 months. Once the bank, they know that 4.5 month time frame, even though you're at home ignoring that mail, the bank is paying attention to every single date. They don't miss a date.
mm.
And so that's about the window, 4.5 months from the time you stop making your payments, where the bank can really dial it up and move forward to scheduling a foreclosure auction after that 135-day period. And it's during that 145 period that the consumer has so many abilities to just pick up the phone and effectively communicate with the bank. And
Okay.
I had a hardship. I know I've fallen out of your good graces. I'd like to find out how I can get back in your good graces. What kind of options do you have for me? What do you need from me in order for me to apply for assistance?
Mm,
And it's just as simple as that. Pick up the phone and communicate with the very entity that has you up at night. They're the ones with the solutions. And then it's
yeah.
just putting together an effective package, right? It's like, this is not a forensic audit. We're talking about some light financial information, couple months bank statements, couple pay stubs, fill out a 6 or 7 page application indicating your expenses every month, your expected income every month, and all that kind of stuff. You put together this package, you submit it to the bank. The bank will put it under review. During that review period, they will pause the foreclosure proceeding pending the results of the review of your application. If the application is in your favor and they agree to help you, they'll send you a results letter that indicate the different types of assistance that are available to you. And then we help
Mm,
identify which one is most attractive considering their situation. And so the bank just doesn't miss any dates. They know exactly what their rights are.
yeah.
And but the actual process of foreclosure is horrendous. It's horrible. I mean, just picture waking up and there's 50 guys and gals in your front yard and an auctioneer and they're bidding on your property.
Mm,
And before the day is out, someone else has entered into an agreement to purchase your property, or the bank has bought it back. And now the bank owns your property. And once that happens, there's no turning back.
mhm.
And it's horrible. It's horrible. One of the properties that I lost to foreclosure was commercial property, the property that one of our offices was located in. And when they foreclosed on that, I think the balance of the mortgage was something like $580,000, and it sold at auction for $375,000. So there was a deficiency
Wow.
balance of a couple $100,000. And
Yep.
so they took that $200,000 deficiency balance and they went and attached my parents' house with a
What?
$200,000 debt. The house I grew up in, their primary residence, they attached their home with that
Mm.
because my father was a guarantor on the note.
Oh,
And that created massive problems, as you can imagine, in my family.
yeah.
It created massive problems that go well beyond finance. And so the collateral damage that can happen with financial crisis goes well beyond the finances, the bad
Mm.
credit. It has a great way
Strains
of,
relationships.
yeah, it ingrains itself into the familial relationship and it creates resentments and it fractures relationships. And that certainly happened with me. One of the biggest challenges in my life is I was never actually able to make an amends with my father before he died. And so my dad died pretty angry. Pretty angry. Yeah. And so there's a lot of lessons in that too. You run out of time sometimes. You run out of time.
What about your immediate family? Because I know you talked about divorce. Are you still separated now, or?
Yeah, no, that was so long ago. That was 15 years
Oh,
ago, right? And
okay.
yeah, and we didn't have any children, which certainly made it a lot easier, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the blessings of my life is that I didn't have children when I was living like that, you know.
Okay.
I can't imagine what kind of levels of tragedy that would have added to this scenario.
I like the way you explained the foreclosure process. I feel like I was speaking to an attorney because you know the ins and outs of it. And like it's typical knowledge that said knowledge is power, but fear clouds everything. What legal rights do homeowners have during the foreclosure process, and what protections do they often overlook or underestimate?
So rights during foreclosure are
Mm.
they're kind of like what I was just talking about, right? Every
Yeah.
bank will give the consumer a time period called a right to cure. And they
Okay.
have a right to cure this deficiency in that 90-day period. And then, like I said, then you have that Soldier and Sailors Act, which is 45 days. You have a right to show up and prove that you're in the active military.
Okay.
Beyond that, your rights are pretty limited.
Mm.
You really are, like it's a pretty cut and dry situation, right? You borrowed money and you gave the bank security in exchange for that loan. And the security is the home. See, consumers don't look at their home as security. They look at it as where they raise their family, where they go
Yeah.
home at night, where they wake up. It's emotional, a home. Not emotional to a bank, believe me. That home is security. It's a security instrument in a collateralized debt.
Yeah.
And they have a right to come get their collateral if you default on the debt. And they have a right to do that relatively quickly if you don't get out in front of it in the early goings. And so there isn't something that will really protect you from foreclosure. Well, there is something. Make your mortgage payments. You know what I mean? If you make your mortgage payments, you're pretty safe.
Let's be all.
Pretty safe, you know. It's the reality
Exactly.
of it, you know.
Yeah. Can you reduce your mortgage payments? Can you like reach out to the bank like, oh, there's so much, can I?
It's sure, right? So there are so many
Yeah.
assistance options that are available, and it all depends on
Okay.
your situation and most specifically what kind of loan it is. If it's a
Mm.
government-backed loan, you have a litany more options than if it's like a portfolio loan and it's like at a local bank or a local credit union and it's not sold out into the secondary market. You don't have a
Mm.
lot of options when you're dealing with one bank and it's not government backed,
Okay.
but it is doable. You can, and we have gotten people's mortgage payments reduced in the past. Absolutely, it's possible. Yep.
So
It's
is that
not.
like is that like an add-on service you provide in your company, 21 properties, or you
So
just
it's no, it's all done through my nonprofit, right? And so
oh
here's the deal,
okay.
right? Is we craft great assistance applications and we follow up with the bank and we get to a results letter. That's the primary goal of what we do is to get to that results letter.
Mm-hmm.
And really the most powerful and valuable thing that we do is we follow up with the bank a couple times a week because
Okay.
banks are not always excellent at communicating back to you. You have to be proactive. And that's where so many people fail on their own when they're doing this
Mm.
is they meet so many people and they're like, "Oh no, I sent in an application 3 months ago. I never heard back." It's like, dude, listen, you can't wait for the bank to call you. You're the
Yeah.
one in trouble. You need to be proactive, call twice a week. Hey, I'm just looking for a status update on my application. Are there any missing documents? What else do you
Okay.
need? And then you need to immediately submit those documents. You have to follow through the process. And so it's not like we don't get to choose what assistance options are available for them. What we do
Mm.
is we put the best assistance application forward, and then the bank will respond and they will offer between 3 and 7 different options for assistance. And oftentimes one of those options is a reduced payment. And then it's just customer based, right? Like, what's important to you? Can you afford your normal payment? Because trust me, banks don't just reduce payments because they like the way you look or they like the way you sound.
Yeah.
Banks, when you're making a deal with the devil, right, is
Mm.
the only way to get your payment reduced is to add time on to your loan. So for
Okay.
example, if you have
Stretches.
if you have 18 years left on a 30-year mortgage, a lot of these federally backed loans will come back and say, hey, we'll do a 40-year mortgage. And
Same.
sure, that'll reduce your payment significantly, but you're going to end up paying $2.5
More
million
interest.
for that $400,000 house by the time you're 75, right? And so it's, but listen, not a lot of people stay in their house forever.
True.
The average person stays in their house. It's getting longer, 7 to 9 years.
Mm.
And so if you know that you're going to be selling your house in 5 or 6 years, then yeah, sure, go ahead, get into that longer term loan, reduce your payments so it's affordable because you know that you're going to sell before you pay all that significantly more money over time.
Oh,
So everything is situational based. It depends on what people want to do and what their future is. Our main goal is calm their housing situation down.
mm.
Because what I've learned about people, human beings, right, is listen, if you're behind on your mortgage, I guarantee you there are other serious issues in your life going on. Guaranteed every time. There's always
Yeah.
other serious issues. If we can help them calm their housing situation down, it makes dealing with the other problems a lot easier in the long run.
Yes.
Because if you're freaking out that you're going to get foreclosed on every night, it's really hard to compartmentalize and be like, well, let me put all my effort into my daughter who's not doing well at school and is hanging out with the wrong people and is starting to act out. And like, having a housing crisis makes all of your other problems elevated and it pulls attention away from those other problems. And so listen, housing is what's more important than having a safe place to lay your head.
Yes. That's that's the most important place. Because once you have your home where you have a starting point, you can do anything. But if you don't have that stability of where to even lay your head, then nothing else makes sense.
Absolutely right. No question about
Really. Yeah. So let's talk about your company, 21 Properties. Is it the same one you were managing at 19, or you rebranded it? This is
No,
different.
no, I
Okay.
still own the real estate company. I own
Okay.
Century 21, and this nonprofit is just a separate entity off to the side that I'm doing with most of my time. I spend most of my time on this nonprofit.
Okay. So so you don't do anything, you don't do much with the Century 21 anymore?
Well, no, it's a great company, and I have great
Okay.
people in it, and but I have people I trust who run it.
Makes sense. So what sort of real estate is a company focused on? Is it just residential or you're into commercial properties and
A little of
whatnot?
both. I would say
Okay.
80% residential, 20%
Mm,
commercial, something like that.
okay.
Yeah.
So talking about some options, it's like we said, if you don't have a place to sleep, a place to lay your head, then you're not thinking about any option, or you're not thinking of how to get to the next step. And we know that not every option is obvious, especially under such stress. So can you break down what a short sale is and why it might be a smart and even dignified way out of for certain homeowners
Yeah,
facing
sure.
foreclosure? Yeah.
Short sale is always a better option than foreclosure, right?
Okay.
And so probably, I don't know, since 2008 or something, we've probably closed 1,000, 1,200 short sale transactions. They're
Okay.
less frequent now because of property appreciation. Values of property are the highest they've ever been. So it's a much less people who are underwater. Underwater
Mhm.
meaning the payoff balance of your mortgage is higher than the value of your home on the open market. That's rare.
Okay.
You don't see a lot of those anymore. So we don't do a ton of them, maybe 10 or 15 a year. But short sale is really one of the best options. If we exhaust every single option and the bank is simply unwilling to offer you what are called retention options in that results letter. So you get the results letter, and sometimes they come back and say, we have no retention options for you, meaning there are no options that are going to allow you to stay in the home because your income isn't sufficient, whatever you can't prove that you're going to be able to make your payments moving forward. So then they
Yes.
come over to non-retention assistance options, and that is the primary one is a short sale. And that's pretty simple. It's a function of you put the property on the market and you get the highest offer you can. But that offer, let's just say for an example, you owe $400,000 on the property, but the highest offer we can get is $300,000. So then what
Okay.
we effectively do is we go to the bank and we say, hey, here's the highest offer we could get for 300,000. We're requesting some hardship assistance and that you allow us to attempt a short sale. Then what the bank will do, because they already have the seller's financials through the assistance application, so all that stuff's already on file. So they know that they're not going to be able to qualify for any other assistance.
Okay.
What the bank does is they hire an independent appraiser to go out to the property and then report back to the bank and let them know, hey, this is what the property is worth. They do that because they want an independent opinion. They're not just going to take the seller or the real estate agent's opinion on value. They need to make sure that that $300,000 offer that came in is in fact in line with the true value of the property. If the appraiser comes back and tells the bank, yep, it's worth $300,000, then the bank will approve the short sale. And
Okay.
what they'll do in 99.9% of the times, the short sale will allow the bank to waive the deficiency balance. So they allow the house to be sold for 300,000. That
Okay.
$100,000 more that's owed is waived, and the seller is not responsible to pay that $100,000. You avoid getting a foreclosure, a public event on your credit report. A short sale on a credit report just shows as a sale, debt settled, and it allows you to actually become a homeowner again as long as the rest of your finances and your credit is intact. Within
Okay.
2 years, you can go back to a bank and get a regular mortgage. If you get foreclosed on, it's going to be 5 to 7 years before you can get a mortgage.
Okay.
Yeah,
That makes
a great
sense.
option. Short sale is an absolutely fantastic option for people who cannot stay in their home.
Hmm. Knowledge, more knowledge nuggets. Knowledge is power. So you went from your comeback story is crazy. You went from financial collapse to an 800 plus credit score. So for
Yeah.
people feeling buried in debt and shame, what are the small consistent steps you would advise or you would recommend them to take to rebuild?
Take the highest interest debt and pay that off first.
Mm,
Whatever it is, make minimum payments on the debt with the lowest interest, put the rest of your money towards the highest interest debts. The reality is that, people who run into financial situation, they have a spending problem, right? Let's be real. They're
yeah.
spending too much money or they're not earning enough money or both. That's the reality of it. And so those are the things that you need to focus on when you're facing that kind of hardship is you need to make more money. You need to spend less money. You need to live well below your means.
Mm,
And that's a whole psyche thing. It's hard. People have a hard time doing that. I know I certainly did. It's a
nice.
humble up. It's time to humble up is the reality of it. It's time to humble up
Eat the
to the
humble
grasp
pie.
of reality. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So talking about hope for hardship.org rather, it's one way you're using to shape the lives of people facing the sort of hardship you've faced, which is foreclosure and financial distress. So what led you to offer this type of guidance? Because is one is one thing to carry your own weight. Is another thing to now create a platform where you carry the weight of others. So is it that you're done carrying your weight and you just want to help other people now?
That's
I
about
know you
right.
said
Sure.
okay,
Yeah.
and I know you said you're using it as a platform to heal as a form of healing.
Yeah,
But
sure.
yes.
So, I would say in practice, the
Mm,
heavy lifting for turning my life around is,
mm,
I've done that. I've done that work. And so, look, it requires daily maintenance, and I continue to work on myself and do the things I
yeah.
need to do to take care of myself. But yeah, that's really what it is. Listen, if I can turn around my life, anybody can. There's no question about that. And I'm just a believer in that. And I by doing this work, I see that proved out on a regular basis.
So what's the bigger picture for Hope for Hardship? What's the legacy you're trying to live for? And like what's the bigger vision for the platform?
Yeah, sure. I don't really care about legacy much. It doesn't really matter too much to me. I used to want to be in lights, and I really don't care about that. So the reality is, we would like to be responsible for 30% of the success stories of people saving their homes
Hmm.
in America. We would like to
Okay.
be responsible for that. That's kind of a long-term goal, and it's doable. It's achievable. Yeah. But that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to save home ownership. And we're trying to help people make the right decisions and be able to
So
stay in their property.
I know you're in Boston. Are you just offering this service to people in Boston or you're spread
Offer it
across
all
the
around. Yeah,
US?
sure. We offer it all around.
Okay.
I'm dealing with some people in California right now that
Oh, nice.
went through those crazy wildfires,
Okay.
which is just it's crazy. That's really the only good reason to live in New England. There really aren't any natural disasters. We don't get
Yeah.
earthquakes. We don't get tornadoes. We don't get really much of that stuff. But yeah, natural disasters is a pretty serious issue going on in various places of the country. And so, yeah, I got a few people in California I talk to on a regular basis. They're trying to figure this out. They lost property to a horrible fire, like barely the chimney's still standing, but they owe the bank $800,000, but their
Wow.
raw charred land is only worth $400,000.
Hmm.
And the insurance money is not sufficient to rebuild, and they've got themselves in a serious pickle. So
Hmm.
yeah, we do this stuff anywhere. I'm an open book. I'll talk to anybody. Just call me up, tell me a story.
So what's one person's story that just made a lot of sense for you and resonated so much with you that made you realize that, yes, this is what I'm trying to achieve and I see this resonates in this person's life? What's one person's life that has changed through what you're doing in Hope for Hardship?
Yeah. Geez, there's this guy that I helped. His name's Jimmy, and
Hmm.
one of the struggles that people in this situation often go through, and I witness it all the time, is they can be in their home, which is falling down around them, and they can't even see the forest through the trees. They can't even see that this house and living in it is the problem.
Wow.
And so Jimmy was not in a place that house wasn't worth saving. They needed to reset, and he didn't trust me at all. He did not trust me in the slightest bit. He thought that I was, working an angle or whatever. And it's kind of how he's wired.
Hmm.
He had some substance abuse issues as well. And I was looking when I was sitting there in the living room at his wife and his beautiful daughters, and they were looking at me like, "Yes, please, God, get us out of here. Help me." And Jimmy just couldn't come around. And so, what we eventually did on that property is we ended up short selling that property because they were well underwater. They hadn't made a mortgage payment in something like 8 years.
Oh,
And I was able to find them another place in a better area of town, a little one level ranch, um, on a rental agreement. And the way that we got that was a 3-year rental agreement. That's how we ended up
okay.
winning out because the landlord was attracted to a 3-year rental agreement. And I knew
Hmm.
they needed time to remedy and fix their credit in order to become home buyers again. So I wanted that extended period of time. And so we just found this rental out there, whatever. We brought them over there. They signed a 3-year lease. And then we got to about 2.5 years. And Jimmy was telling me, hey, the landlord wants to sell the property. And I said,
Hmm.
well, look, let's get a meeting with the landlord and tell her that you guys want to buy it privately and that she'll
Okay.
save the money from hiring a real estate company. She won't have to pay a commission. It'll be a private sale. Let's find out what she's planning to put the property on the market. Let's back the commission out of there and make your offer something along those lines. So we did that. It really wasn't a lot of negotiation. She agreed completely.
Hmm.
And they bought the house last year, and the turnaround in their lives from where I met them and where they were living in this house that had like active roof leaks and like the furnace didn't work and it was just falling apart around them, to being in this beautiful rental and then turning this beautiful rental into their own home in a 3-year span. That's the true turnaround of
Hmm.
somebody's life. And I didn't make a single dollar doing any of that. And that, I mean, come on, there's nothing more rewarding than that. Jimmy and his family have become good friends.
Mm.
They look to me for advice on so many different things relative to real estate, finances, and it's an honor. It really is just an absolute honor. And so, not every success story involves someone keeping their house.
Sure.
Sometimes it involves recognizing that it's time to leave and finding belief that life can improve from here. And they're a perfect example.
That's such a remarkable story. And I like what you said. It's good to know when to leave, when to take the bow.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
finally, for someone listening right now who is afraid, ashamed, and maybe avoiding their mail, what's one thing you want them to hear, believe, and act on today?
Control the controllable, right? You're in full
Okay.
control. You are
Yeah.
in full control. Open that piece of mail, pick up the phone, and ask for mercy. Acknowledge that you didn't meet your end of the bargain. You didn't hold up your end of the bargain. Acknowledge that, call them, and tell them that you know that and you want to fix it. You do that, control the controllable. The rest of it is, it's outside of your control. That's what you can control. You can control not throwing the mail in a pile and ignoring it. You don't want to, and it's hard, but you can do it.
Nice. Thank you. So this takes us to the second part of the show, which is the firecracker segment. So this is just me hollering at you with a bunch of questions and you hit me right back with the first answer that comes to you. So are you a morning or night person?
Morning.
Oh, okay. So what's one hard truth about foreclosure that most people don't want to hear, but absolutely need to?
It will happen if you don't do something.
It
will. You will take that home.
What's your best and worst investment moment?
My worst investment moment was with the wrong partner. My best investment moment was with the right partner.
Business partner? What's the most surprising lesson hardship has taught you about success and about yourself?
I'm not that important. Neither is financial success.
Okay. Why did you say that?
Because
The
I'm a
context.
realist, right? I'm a realist.
Yeah.
I know that my baseline is very simple. Here's my baseline. The amount of money that'll make me feel okay inside is $5 more than
Okay.
period. Because money isn't the solution. It isn't.
Sure.
It isn't. It just isn't. It's not gonna make me feel okay. No amount of it, because trust me, no amount would ever be enough.
You just need to find out what success means to you, what your
Yes.
threshold of contentment means, and stick to it because
Success is, it's a poor decision making paradigm, or a definition paradigm in America, at least, is, success. Honestly, if people would just simplify things, it would be really nice and really successful to wake up happy every day. That sounds like success to me. You know what I mean?
yeah. So if every struggling homeowner in America could just hear one sentence from you right now, what would it be?
Keep the faith. Every struggle in life is temporary. The only reason they become permanent is because of our own decisions.
You have to do something about it.
That's right.
It's like you said, you have to get sick and tired of getting sick and tired. True. So how do you unwind when you're not helping people out of your foreclosure troubles?
I travel. I like to travel. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
That's my only downtime. I travel.
Where are you traveling this summer?
Probably, I have a favorite spot. It's called Anguilla, and it's
Okay.
15 miles northwest of St. Martin down the Caribbean.
So are you going to be in like a hiking? Is it going to be like a hiking
Not
camping
really.
vibe?
It's a tremendously flat island. It's only 15 miles long, 3 miles wide, but the beaches are to die.
Nice. Are you like a surfer kind of guy?
Yeah, totally, man. I'll go to the beach all day. Yeah, or I'll go on a sailboat. I love being on the water, really. I love being on the water. I like to travel and get on boats. Yeah.
So how can we reach you? Your socials,
Yeah, sure.
LinkedIn, websites.
You can go to my site and learn all about me. It's the number 4, hardship.org, or you can call me direct.
Oh, okay. You're the first. Dropping your phone number boldly. I would
Call me
definitely.
anytime. That's my cell. Hit me up anytime. You're what, 6
Nice.
hours ahead of me? Something like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I definitely do well to put that in the body of the description so our viewers can go there, click the link, check out the website, and give you a call.
Absolutely. No problem. I'll be honored to talk to anybody. So I'm grateful for the time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Michael, for
Thank you.
just sharing your story of humility, of faith, of consistency, of resilience, and how you're able to turn your hardship into success and that success into purpose. So you're you transformed your life and you're helping other people transform theirs too. You're
That's the
the
goal.
real life Superman.
Thank you.
Even though the Superman's movie is coming out tomorrow here in
Is it?
London, but
All right. Yeah.
I already have one Superman in front of me and I'm grateful.
Thank you very much.
So there we have it, guys. This is another amazing episode of Bricks and Banks podcast, and we've heard and shared Mike's story. So if you found this episode, if it resonates with you, make sure to click the like button. Make sure to leave a comment and do well to contact Mike. He's dropped his phone number for us, so he's there and ready to listen to us.
Yeah.
So till we come again your way again next week. This has been Bricks and Banks with Steph. Bye for now.
Thank you.